Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now first of all, for you long-term viewers out there, the moustache, I have to mention it, I have shaved it off. It got to the point where it was so unneat that I was chewing it as part of any food I ate. So yes, I know that the Random Gaming in HD's moustache Twitter page will be particularly disappointed, but I am letting it grow back in. I'm just going to keep it a bit neater as it comes back. So the moustache will be back. It seems an odd way to start a video, but there were quite a lot of people concerned with my facial hair, but today let's get into it because we are making we are taking a look, I should say, rather, at more of your gaming rigs. So first of all, here we have a build from Mr. Sami, 1998. Now they've sent me their i5-8400 rig. This is combined with a 5700 XT, and they say this used to be a pre-built. The graphics card has been changed along with the power supply. It now has a CX750M inside this thing and some weird cooler, as they've put it. I personally quite like the look of that. It's a good looking PC, and the i5-8400 and 5700 XT is a good combination. A lot of people overlook the i5, especially now, and with the release of the 10th generation i5 chips, but that just means the price of the i5-8400 has gone down even more on the used market, and for pure gaming purposes it's still very, very good. So SR_V444 has sent me their very nice looking rig. Now this features a Ryzen 5 1600AF, one of my all-time and personal favourites. This also has a B450 Pro VDH Max motherboard, a 240 gig SSD, a 1TB HDD, and 16 gigs of 3200 MHz Crucial Ballistics Sport DDR4. Now, what I like about this is that you've paired the Ryzen 5 1600AF with a 980 Ti, the EVGA Superclocked Edition. Now, you don't really see too many people using the 980 Ti these days. It's still very much a nice GPU. It can be found at a reasonable price on the used market. I'm not sure where it stands in terms of the general hierarchy of things these days. Perhaps it's between a 1060 and a 1070, but for 1080p gaming it still puts up one hell of a fight. Now we have a little update here. They actually sold the 980 Ti for €174 and bought a 5600 XT for 195, so they didn't have to spend much to upgrade the GPU here. I'm not sure what the difference would be between these two cards, but it's likely quite a nice one with the 5600 XT. That's a card I still haven't checked out yet, and I really want to do so. So Colasin_2 has submitted their battle station here, as they put it. This currently features an i3-120, soon to be an i5-2400. That's a nice upgrade there. An R9 270X overclocked, a Kingston A400 240 gig SSD, two 500 gigabyte hard drives, and 8 gigs of DDR3 clocked at 1866 MHz. Now, from the looks of it, oh yes, this used to be, or it still is, a Lenovo E72 pre-built with some personal changes made. I do like those old Lenovo pre-builts. I think they look very good. Very plain looking, but it's a nice, simple design in my opinion. What I would suggest here is that the PC could do with a rear fan. I notice you haven't got a rear fan on the case there. I don't know if you've put any at the front of the PC, if there's any motherboard headers available to plug a couple of front fans in, and that would be a good idea too, but a rear fan there, an exhaust fan, would definitely be a good idea just to help with the heat dissipation and stuff. Next up we have a rig from R___B___. Yeah, we've got a few systems here. The first one is an Acer 1080p projector alongside an MSI pre-built that they panic bought when they bricked their Alienware 17, updating the BIOS. That is everyone's worst nightmare, but they later fixed it a week later. The specs of this machine are an i5-9400, very good chip, very similar to the 8400, just without the integrated graphics. A weird proprietary motherboard. Yes, that is unfortunately the case with some pre-builts. MSI do it, Dell do it, you know, it happens. We've got 16 gigs of DDR4 in here, a 250 gig M.2 SSD and a 1TB hard drive, along with a Palette RTX 2070 upgraded from a 1650. That is a very nice upgrade. There's also a 350 watt power supply. Now that is a little bit concerning. It doesn't seem like it would be enough to power that rig, and I'd certainly consider updating that, although it might be troublesome if the motherboard is proprietary. It might have a proprietary connector I can't really see from the photos properly, but yeah, they say they've run a few tests here, and it seems to be handling everything just fine, but it seems a little low to me, 350 watts, but if it's working, it's working. Yeah, I would just see if you can upgrade it though, to be honest, because it does seem a little low. We've also got a couple of Alienware laptops at the bottom here. Alienware laptops, I absolutely love them. We've tested a couple on this channel before. They might not hold up so well these days, but they are definitely fun to look at. Now the first one is a 9-year-old M11X with an i7-2617M, a GT540M and 8 gigs of RAM with a 500 gig SSD. They've just renewed the thermal paste and it's good as new. See, sometimes it can be as simple as that. The second one is a 6-year-old Alienware 17R2 with an i7-4980HQ, a GTX 980M and 16 gigabytes. Now I'd imagine that combination would certainly perform a little better, but both of those are pretty good looking laptops. And I like your dog as well. Is that a dog? My eyesight is terrible. He looks lovely. He or she, of course. I don't know. You haven't put the description of your dog in the description. Now we have something from Brandon_Rudney here. This is a $200 PC. His little brother's PC, saved up $200 for a PC, so I helped him out a little bit, added $100 to his budget and built this for $300. That's very nice of you, and it runs pretty well. What do you think? An i5 4670K with a 3 gig 1060 and 16 gigs of memory. I think that's a pretty good looking build there, to be honest. Again, I would suggest adding an exhaust fan to this system. You've got 2 fans at the front, which is good. Add the exhaust fan there just to get that air running all the way through the rig. But aside from that, the 4670K and 1060, I would imagine, are still working very nicely together. And for $300, that's a pretty nice combo. Alright, so on to some Twitter submissions now. The first one is from Janko Geshwand8. I apologise for the pronunciation of any of your usernames that I get horribly wrong, but we have a nice looking setup here. I especially like the Minecraft Xbox you've got going on there too. The specs are here, an AMD Phenom X4965. Don't see many people using them, and I still very much admire those old school chips. I tested one a while ago and found that they can still handle themselves in some games, but I'd love to go back and retest it. This is paired with an RX 470, nice choice. An OCZ ZX Series Gold PSU 850 watt unit there. See, that gives you plenty of room to upgrade in the future should you ever want to. I wouldn't recommend going any higher with the graphics card. I think that and the X4965 are probably a pretty good pairing as they are, but if you did want to upgrade the graphics card in the future, the processor would probably need swapping out, and therefore the motherboard as well, you know. In case you do run into any issues with games, I think that's what would have to be done, to be honest, in order to get better performance. But yeah, it's a nice combination. Looks pretty good looking case there. And they've said it's used for games like Team Fortress 2, The Witcher 3 and Minecraft. So, you know, if your specs run the games that you want to play, then that's absolutely fine. If you've got a certain game in mind and your PC handles them, there's no need to upgrade. Alright, next up we have a submission from someone's username who I can't actually say because this video will probably get demonetized and just disappear. It's basically the C word and then Stantin is the username. When I accepted the request, I never read the usernames first of all, and then I was like, oh okay, so yeah. Hello, roast my rig. Now immediately it's obvious what the problem is here. You probably shouldn't mount your cooler like this. The cooler is mounted on the wrong side, only held in place by 2 screws, which I could only remove with a plier because they're too worn out. No SSDs, 2 HDDs, one of them is 11 years old, 3 sticks of RAM, again not advisable. 2 sticks of RAM in dual channel is always the best way to go. But the specs are actually pretty good. You've got an i5 8400 with a 1060 in there. A pretty nice combination, overclocked in fact to 1975 megahertz, along with 16 gigs. Oh yes, we've mentioned the RAM already. You know, it's just a nice combination in terms of the parts, but the cable management also looks pretty good. It's just a matter of turning that CPU fan around, sorting that RAM out, but you've got necessary intake and exhaust fans there, so yeah, a few things to fix there, but apart from that, it's fine. So the next machine here comes from Bravano Gabriel. Apologies again for any incorrect pronunciation here. Now this system first consisted of a Pentium G3240 and a GTX 1060 3GB card. Now it says further down here that the bottleneck caused by the Pentium was quite significant, but they did find a used i3-4170 for $30 USD, which is pretty good, to be honest. They've said themselves there's still a little bit of a bottleneck, but I can imagine that that would make some serious improvements to the overall performance in terms of gaming, because I can imagine the Pentium was causing some stutter here and there. The i3 might do the same, but it will certainly be a welcome improvement. In the future, I would like to upgrade to an i5 4690 or 4770. What do you think? Well, if you have the budget for the i7, then go for that. The 4 cores and 8 threads will certainly help out in a lot of games, but the i5 4690 still puts up a strong fight, though in some titles you may see a couple of issues because of the 4 threads, but yeah, I'm glad to see you've upgraded from that Pentium in that build. I'd also turn that rear exhaust fan around with the X pattern facing the back, that way it acts as an exhaust fan rather than an air intake. Alright, so now we have something from Under Zero Twitch. Now, they have sent me their i5 2500 rig with a GT730. Now, this is a Dell Optiplex that they won in an auction, along with the 1030. In fact, paid $20 Australian for it. The monitor I got for free after my parents stopped using it. That's pretty good. It's a 1080p 60Hz monitor. Now, this is another good example of a PC that suits a person's requirements. You know, it's not the best spec PC in the world, but they've said here they just play older titles mainly and visual novels, so it gets the job done, and that's what PC gaming is all about. If you have a build that can play everything you want to play, then there's no problem with that. They also said here that they bought the cheapest keyboard and mouse they could at Officeworks. Don't worry about it, because as you know, we're still rocking the Dell Mouse here as well. Very ergonomically comfortable, the Dell Mouse. Watermelona 11 has sent me their Pentium 4 rig. It's a Pentium 4 clocked at 3.2 GHz with a whopping 1GB of RAM. And as for the GPU, it has integrated graphics. I suppose they're Intel GMA graphics, motherboard graphics, because the Pentium 4s, as far as I remember, don't have integrated graphics themselves. Now, they've put that Counter-Strike 1.6 runs at 30 FPS without any problems, which is quite surprising, but again, if it plays that game and that's the game you want to play, then that's fine. As for the storage, I've got an 80GB Samsung hard drive, which is enough for Windows 7 and a couple of ancient games. There we go. Here is a photo of the bad boy. Very nice. If you wanted to add a graphics card, you could probably add something older, like a 9600 GT, and play some of those old school games with a few more frames. This picture's a little concerning, but apart from that, yeah, there we go. And I thank you very much for watching. I really wanted to squeeze this video in here today because I promised that I'd try and do one of these videos every month. It is the 31st of May, so we were cutting it close. But yeah, I've been so busy with a few different projects. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys are staying safe out there during these times. As always, submit your rigs to Twitter at RGNHD or Instagram with the same username. And hopefully I'll try and get through all of them. If I've seen yours before and I haven't mentioned it, or you've sent it before and I haven't mentioned it, then send it again, because I'm trying to get through a very large backlog. But as for this video, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like on it down below. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And in the next one, we'll be testing out the remastered version of Saints Row 3, because it's quite interesting in terms of its performance. So I hope you can join me then. Also, happy birthday to just_Bo71. I just saw the message. Sorry if it's a couple of days late, but happy birthday.